My wife, Chloe, and I had been married for 2 years. On our anniversary, her first love posted a sonogram on social media. Folks, thanks to my Chloe for providing the baby bump, I've finally fulfilled my mission to continue the family line. I clenched my fists and quietly commented, "Congratulations, you three." The next second, Chloe called me, angry. A barrage of accusations came through the receiver. She yelled impatiently, "I'm just helping Ethan carry his baby. Do you have to be so petty?" After hanging up, I decided to extinguish the green light over my head. I bent down and picked up the 2 forms that I had stepped on. They were a bit blurry. One was a list of necessities for pregnant women, and the other was a list for newborns. Chloe had never liked doing the deed with me, nor did she like children. She said that children were wild, noisy, and required too much effort. But 2 days ago, I found a sonogram in my study. The sonogram was in a small, beautiful gift box. I had assumed that Chloe had found out she was pregnant and was planning to surprise me. I had been happy as a fool, spending all day and night researching what expectant fathers needed to do. But now, it seemed the surprise wasn't for me, and the child wasn't mine. Nausea rose from my throat. I went to the bathroom, soaked both forms in the sink, and threw them in the trash can. Chloe came home surprisingly early today. I looked at the time. It was only 10 o'clock. She usually returned around midnight. She called my name, but I stayed in bed and didn't respond. She didn't call again. Soon after, I heard the sound of running water coming from the bathroom. She finished her shower and came into the bedroom. She didn't turn on the light, but quietly lay down next to me. I felt her soft touch on my back. This was the first time she had initiated contact. She buried her head in my back, her tone more agreeable than I had ever heard. "Honey, nothing happened between us, really. I only decided to be a surrogate to help him fulfill his desire to have a child. Ethan loves children. I promise, once I've given birth, I'll cut all ties with him." As she spoke, Chloe's hand slowly started to move downward. I didn't respond. I just took her hand off of me and moved over to the side. She felt my rejection and said, upset, "I'm already being proactive. What else do you want? Don't forget that you said you didn't mind my past. You vowed to treat me well. Can't you just be more understanding?" I could have just lied and said the child was yours, but I chose to tell you the truth out of respect. "You're so petty." She spoke all her complaints, and then said, "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Maybe you should also think about how I've been treating you lately. Every time you wanted something, I always fulfilled your needs, didn't I?" She slammed the door shut. I couldn't help but laugh at my pathetic marriage and how blind I'd been. In her eyes, her speaking softly to me was a favor. It was as if, by telling me the truth, I was obligated to accept it. If I didn't, I was petty. She had always been so opposed to having children, but was willing to be pregnant for that man for 10 months. In the darkness, I looked at the outline of the ceiling, feeling a sense of melancholy. I no longer wanted this relationship. When I woke up the next morning, Chloe was already gone. I knew where she had gone. She was always out early and back late. Who else would she be with? Chloe didn't like to work hard. I had given her a vice president title in my company, where she only needed to sign some documents. Because of this, my assistant called me multiple times asking for her. The assistant said that she hadn't been to the company lately. I didn't say much, but I had another idea. I prepared some documents and drove to the tax office, planning to terminate the transfer of my shares. Coincidentally, I ran into Chloe while submitting the documents. She was being held by the waist by Ethan. She frowned as she asked me, "Alex, are you following me?" I didn't answer her, but instead looked at Ethan. Ethan avoided my gaze, but didn't remove his hand from Chloe's waist. "Don't talk nonsense, Chloe. How would Alex be following us? We don't have anything to hide. Alex, as a man, surely you understand the importance of carrying on the family line." Ethan's words shifted the focus to me. I laughed coldly and replied, "Indeed. So you two must do your best to carry on the family line." Seeing me speak plainly, Chloe pushed me, upset. "Will you stop? I just see Ethan as a brother." Chloe's push caused my lower back to hit the corner of the wall, making me wince in pain. Seeing this, Ethan immediately stepped forward to act concerned. he scolded Chloe, but his eyes clearly showed a hint of provocation and satisfaction. I shoved him away, not wanting to talk to them any longer. Unexpectedly, Ethan knelt on the ground, saying that he had twisted his ankle. Chloe quickly helped him up and yelled at me, "If something happens to Ethan, I will never forgive you." My lower back was hurting so much that I started to sweat, but I watched as my own wife left me and took care of another man. I stood there, watching them leave, and suddenly felt lucky. Lucky that Chloe wasn't carrying my child. How could a woman who didn't love her own husband love a child she had with him? Back at the office, I prepared a divorce agreement with the lawyer that I had arranged. Just as I was going to message Chloe, I saw that she had posted on social media, "I hope our baby will grow up to be as tall as his father." The picture was of a man's back. I recognized it as Ethan. Her close friends commented under it, "That back doesn't look like your husband. Could it be he doing things in silence? The ex is back." I'm crying. You finally fulfilled your agreement to have a child. Soon, I saw Chloe's reply. "Don't talk nonsense. I'm only helping as a surrogate. Do you want my husband to divorce me by saying this?" Her friends replied, "Understood." But a friend named Katie replied, speechless, "What's the point of having a petty man? You should just get a divorce and be with Ethan. After all these years, everyone knows you can't let go. Why don't you just follow your heart?" Katie was Chloe's best friend from childhood. She had never liked me. She always thought that I wasn't good enough for her best friend, that I was worse than Ethan. In her eyes, I wasn't as handsome as Ethan, nor as sweet, nor as romantic. I wasn't as good as him in anything. But for Chloe's sake, I had never said anything. I often gave gifts to try and win them over. But now that my marriage with Chloe was over, I didn't have to care about anyone's feelings. So, I wrote a few words, "I'm getting a divorce soon. Sorry for all your worrying for Chloe over the years." Then, I opened my social media page and posted a picture, the divorce agreement. This nightmare is finally ending. As soon as I posted it, many people started asking about it. However, Chloe's friends chose to not see it, but I knew they were calling Chloe to celebrate. Soon, my phone started to ring nonstop. Not only my parents, but Chloe's parents were also calling me. Chloe was also calling, and I declined. The phone kept ringing like a stubborn cat, so I finally replied to my parents and then put my phone on airplane mode. "Mom and Dad, I will explain everything when I get home." As it was nearing dusk, I left the office. Downstairs, I saw Chloe getting out of her car. She had barely gotten out of her car when she started walking toward me angrily. "Alex, what's the meaning of this? You want a divorce because I'm helping him carry his child? So what if I'm carrying a baby for someone else? The law doesn't care. Are you still going on about it?" Her questions disgusted me, but there was no point in arguing with her. I ignored her anger and walked towards the parking lot. She yanked me back forcefully. "When will you stop?" I said that I'd cut ties with him after the baby. "I've already compromised. What more do you want?" Her shameless words replayed in my mind. I forced back my anger and turned to look at her angrily. "Don't worry about me ruining your pure love. Katie was right. You should follow your heart. Why do you need a man as petty as me? You should find an understanding husband who would accept you bearing a child for someone else. Remember to sign the divorce papers." I broke away from her and walked to my car. I heard her yelling behind me, "Okay, Alex, don't you dare regret it." How could I regret it? I should be thanking her for this. I finally realized that I would be better off without her. Back at home, my parents asked me why we were getting a divorce. My mom's eyes were red, as if she had just cried. I told them that Chloe was carrying a child for Ethan. My mom held me tight, crying in pain and anger. "I told you she was no good. How could she do that?" My dad was silent for a while, and then said, "You have to get a divorce?" I pouted and decided to stop pretending that I was strong in front of my loved ones. My parents had always been against this marriage. They said that Chloe didn't love me. I had been chasing after Chloe for 5 years and finally, she agreed to be with me. I refused to listen to anyone. I always thought I could make Chloe love me eventually, but it seemed I hadn't succeeded. I had finally learned that forcing a relationship wasn't worth it. I waited for a long time, but Chloe still hadn't signed the papers. Finally, after I said I was going to sue for divorce, she reluctantly messaged me. Can we meet tomorrow? I'll also get Katie to apologize to you. Don't be angry. I'm pregnant. It's really hard. It's hard choosing between you and Ethan. I apologize. Can you also understand that I'm pregnant? Once the baby is born, I promise to see him less often. See him less? She kept saying that she didn't know whom to choose between Ethan and me, but her actions always proved that she would always choose Ethan. On our wedding day, she had left me to pick Ethan up from the airport. On my mother's birthday, she went to celebrate Ethan's promotion. And on our anniversary, she had already become pregnant with his child. She always bought 2 gifts for every holiday. One for me and one for Ethan, playing this ridiculous game of fairness. I had complained about it when I was drunk, but she would always say that it wouldn't happen again. But this next time never came. And if I complained too much, she would say that I, as a man, was being petty and narrow-minded. When I thought about it, the happiest time we spent together was the day of the proposal. I had prepared many surprises. The proposal was in Norway, under the aurora borealis. The stars there seemed within reach. Finally, under the aurora, I had put the ring on her finger. She agreed with an earnest look and a passionate voice. But that day had passed a long time ago. I could no longer recall the full memory. I hadn't seen Chloe that serious ever since. Seeing that I hadn't replied, Chloe called me. Alex, I've already booked a restaurant. Everyone will apologize. See you tomorrow, okay? I said, will Ethan be there? Yes. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. If they wanted to apologize, how could they only apologize to me? The next morning, Chloe and Ethan were waiting for me in the parking lot. She hadn't driven, so I had to let them in my car. Ethan opened the back door for Chloe, helping her in. He smiled apologetically. I'm sorry, Alex. Chloe is pregnant. I don't want her to sit in the front. I replied with a smile. It's okay. If it were before, I wouldn't have been happy with their behavior. But now, I no longer cared about what they did. Interestingly, the passenger seat was always empty when I drove. Chloe would always sit in the back with him. After we arrived at the restaurant, Chloe's friends were already seated. Katie walked over and pulled me to sit next to her. Come on, Alex, do us a favor and sit next to me. I'll apologize to you later. Her tone didn't sound like she was apologizing. Instead, it sounded provocative. During the meal, Katie first poured me a drink. Then, she said she would punish herself with one drink. She downed her drink and began to apologize to me. Alex, I've always been a straightforward person. Don't mind me, I really don't like you. And I think you are not good enough for my best friend. But she's a hopeless romantic, so I'll apologize to you. From the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry. She then raised another cup. I'll drink this too. I really didn't mean to say those words that day. Okay, I'm sorry. I sniffed the drink. There was no alcohol in her glass. I didn't say anything, only chuckled softly. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting better, Chloe called everyone to continue eating. Ethan stood up with a glass of liquor. Alex, brother, I also want to apologize. Chloe has too much feelings for me. I'm so sorry for everything. Chloe immediately pulled him back down. What are you doing, Ethan? You didn't do anything wrong. I chose to be a surrogate. Then, she looked me in the eye seriously and slowly said, I'm sorry. It's my fault that I didn't handle this relationship well. It's okay. There's another person who wants to hear your apology, I said. The door of the room opened again. A woman in makeup walked in. Wife, what are you doing here? Ethan stood up, surprised, and then looked worriedly at the woman. The woman had a powerful presence. Everyone could tell that Ethan relied on her. Of course I invited her. Didn't you want to apologize? Then you should tell her what you have been doing behind my back. Wife, Ethan, you're married? Chloe was stunned. She then started yelling at me. Alex, are you crazy? I ignored Chloe's yelling and invited the woman to stand in front of Chloe and Ethan. Didn't you want to apologize? There's no point in apologizing to me. Since Ethan's wife is here now, let's all talk about why you chose to use a friend as a surrogate. And an ex at that. Ethan's and Chloe's faces immediately changed. Ethan's wife clenched her fists, trying to contain her anger. Just as Ethan was about to explain, she slapped him across the face. Are you having fun lying to me? You said that you were using a surrogate. Turns out, you're using your ex to have a child? Hearing Ethan's wife's yelling, Chloe rushed to Ethan's defense, apologizing to Ethan's wife. I'm sorry. This is all my fault. It's my fault for agreeing. You can hit me, just don't hurt him. The woman scoffed and said, You're not even a real green tea. But Ethan, you cheated on me and want me to raise your child. Before Ethan could say anything, Chloe quickly tried to defend herself. No, nothing happened. He didn't cheat. I laughed at the scene. It seemed that in Ethan's and Chloe's brains, as long as they didn't sleep with each other, it didn't count as cheating. But the woman wasn't like me. I could only force myself not to do anything to Chloe, but she was a woman and she slapped Chloe. You didn't cheat? Did you not take care of him when he had a stomachache? Did you not pick him up when I kicked him out? You're basically his second wife. Seeing Chloe get hit, Ethan yelled at the woman in front of him. Why are you hitting her? Why am I having a child through a surrogate? It's because you can't have any? The woman's eyes turned red. So what? Your family isn't a royal family. Why do you need to continue the family line? It's not about continuing the family line. I just want a child with the person that I love. I laughed to myself. He had finally admitted it. That sentence ignited the woman's anger. She sent a message on her phone, and soon, a few strong-looking men came into the room. I quickly walked to the door and left. The next second, I heard yelling and things breaking inside the room. It just so happened that one of my clients knew Ethan's wife. I'd seen a picture of them together on her social media. Otherwise, I would have never known that Ethan was married, and I wouldn't have been able to see this show. When I got home, the police called and asked me to go to the station. When I arrived, Chloe and her friends had bruises on their faces. When Chloe saw me, she glared at me, as if she wanted to eat me alive. Katie stopped her from doing anything at the police station and glared at me as if she was warning me. I laughed and followed the police into the interrogation room. After the interrogation, it was already 1 in the morning. When I came out, Chloe was gone. She was sent to the hospital because she had a sudden stomach ache and was showing signs of a miscarriage. The others were detained. I saw Chloe again a week later. She wanted to meet to finalize our divorce papers. She had driven to the villa where we used to live. I asked, What do you mean by this? She said with a dark face, If you want a divorce, kneel down and apologize to Ethan. I said angrily, Why? He deserves it. I then opened the door to leave, but she locked the doors. You caused me to have a miscarriage. You got him kicked out of his home and badly injured. You should just apologize. Her eyes were red as she stared at me. I laughed. Isn't this better? Now you can finally be together. And of course, you will have another child. Hearing this, Chloe suddenly got out of the car. She opened my door and dragged me out. You have to apologize today. She kept saying this while pulling me towards the villa. I tried to struggle, but Chloe was yelling, and many people gathered around us. I stopped struggling and was dragged into our bedroom. Ethan was lying on the bed that used to be mine, looking dazed. Seeing me, he got up and punched me. You're so evil. You made Chloe lose her baby. You ruined me. He was going to hit me again when Chloe stopped him. Ethan, stop. You haven't recovered yet. I will make him kneel down to apologize to you. Then, she looked at me. If you kneel down and apologize, we can be done with this. I spat, in your dreams. I then looked at Ethan. Ethan, do you have no self-respect? You want to be taken care of by your rich wife, but you also want to regain your confidence through your ex. Hearing this, Ethan jumped off of the bed and laughed, looking at me with rage. How can you be so evil? Are you happy now that you killed an innocent baby? I laughed coldly, not afraid of him. Let's just say, it's all the fault of the baby's parents, which are you and Chloe. My fault? I will make you know what is bad. The next second, I widened my eyes, seeing Ethan take out a knife and stab me. Chloe reacted and pushed him away. She turned to me, worried. Alex, are you okay? My blood was flowing out of the wound. My body temperature quickly dropped. I heard my weakening breath. Soon, I couldn't open my eyes and passed out. I woke up in the hospital. The room was full of the smell of disinfectant. Chloe was dozing off next to me. Seeing her, I had a moment of emptiness, and then I remembered everything. I looked at her coldly, wanting to stab her. Just then, I saw a glass on the nightstand. I reached out and grabbed the glass. The noise woke Chloe, and she looked at me with surprise. As I was holding the glass, I threw it at her face. She couldn't dodge it, and the glass hit her forehead. Blood started to trickle down. She was stunned and walked over to me, trying to hold my hand. I shoved her away, reopening my wound. I winced in pain. "Alex, I'm sorry. I didn't know that he had a knife." She looked at me worriedly and guiltily. "Get out." As I yelled, my wound tore open, and blood started to seep out. Chloe jumped, scared. She ran out to find the doctor. The next few days, Chloe still came to see me. I had to hire a nurse to kick her out. I also didn't tell my parents about my injury so they wouldn't worry. But while I was at the hospital, I contacted my lawyer. 2 weeks later, the first thing I did was sue Ethan. After I sued Ethan, Chloe came back to me, shamelessly asking me to drop the lawsuit. "Alex, Ethan was only confused. Please be understanding. Don't be petty." I laughed. "Confused? Then let him be confused in jail." "Alex, Ethan hasn't had a hard life. How could he endure those conditions? Please, I'll kneel down for you, okay?" Chloe knelt. I didn't feel bad. I only felt a sense of satisfaction. "It doesn't matter if you or Ethan knelt, it won't work. Get out." Chloe left. "I want to see my lawyer." She explained the case. Overall, there was no way for Ethan to escape the law. When I saw Ethan again, he was gloating. "Chloe already hired a lawyer. Do you think you can win?" "Haha, you will lose." I didn't laugh, but looked at my lawyer. She calmly said, "Don't worry." Hearing her words, I immediately felt safe. When Ethan heard my lawyer's name, he couldn't laugh anymore. The lawyer I hired was named Sally. She was a well-known lawyer who had never lost a case. It was hard for normal people to hire her, but I could hire her anytime. She was my mother's best friend's daughter. She had always been following me around when she was little. As expected, Ethan was sentenced to 5 years in prison for intentional assault. He also had to pay all of my medical expenses. After hearing the verdict, Ethan collapsed. I started to prepare for my divorce. After Ethan's trial, Chloe didn't appear for a long time. About a month later, someone called my name, "Alex." It was Chloe. Her tone was calm. I turned around. The dim streetlights made her look haggard. She was a lot thinner. I didn't reply, only looked at her. Chloe looked at me, angry and disbelieving. "I gave you more than half a month to cool off. You still want a divorce?" "Alex, don't you love me anymore?" I didn't answer, and there was no point in answering. I had just been giving her time to not make everything look too bad. But I had never thought that, in her eyes, it was only time for me to cool off. "How's your body lately?" I asked. Mentioning her body, Chloe's face softened. Her eyes were filled with grief. "I went for a checkup. The doctor said that I may never be able to have another child." Her voice was trembling. "Oh." Chloe suddenly seemed to remember something and reached out for my hand. "But we can try in vitro. We will have children." I finally felt something move inside me. I still did my best to stay calm, looking into Chloe's eyes. "But I don't want to have children with you." My tone was too calm, making Chloe pause. Then, she said with a smile, "I don't believe you. You said that you love children the most." I was tired and didn't want to explain any longer. Chloe looked at me, trying to look into my heart through my eyes. After a long time, she realized that I didn't care. She asked, "Do you really not love me anymore? Is it because I was carrying a baby for Ethan?" Hearing those words, I laughed at myself. "Chloe, how can you have the audacity to talk about love now? Over the years, who is it that has not given any love to this relationship?" I said through gritted teeth. Chloe didn't say anything for a long time. She then squatted down, hugging my leg, looking like an abandoned cat. "I'm sorry, Alex. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I know now that I love you. I love you. We will have children. We can find a surrogate. I will not find a surrogate. I will not hurt innocent women just to fulfill my own selfish desires. I cut her off, looking at her stomach. It was my fault. I shouldn't have agreed to be a surrogate for someone else. Alex. Hearing Chloe's apology, I didn't feel relieved. I only felt indifference. I didn't bother to think if her apology was real, because I didn't care anymore. Chloe, let's get a divorce. Then, I paused. Take care of your health. I removed her hands from my leg. She knelt on the ground, crying. I didn't look at her again. I turned around and left. After I got home, I sent Chloe one last message. Sign the divorce papers quickly. I don't want to make this look any worse than it already is. After sending it, I deleted her contact information. For the next few days, Chloe didn't appear. She used another phone to call me and said that she agreed to get a divorce. I made an appointment to sign the papers, but when I got to the office, I saw Chloe standing at the entrance. Seeing me, her eyes turned red. Alex. I ignored her and was about to go in when she grabbed my sleeve and begged, Alex, I don't want a divorce. I found it ridiculous. My love for her didn't disappear instantly. It was compiled of many things. It was worn down by her choosing Ethan over and over again. Now that Ethan was in jail, she came back to me. What was I to her? I looked at her. Chloe, where are my shares? I took a deep breath and asked. Chloe's eyes showed a strange hint of regret and despair, but she chose to answer. I gave them to Ethan. She paused. He tricked me. He said that he was single and that after I had a child, I would need money to raise him. I laughed. I already knew that she had transferred the shares. I only didn't sue because I pitied her. Seeing that I wasn't talking, Chloe sobbed, and she wanted to hug me. I took a step back. Alex, I'll listen to you from now on, okay? Chloe said with determination. It was a lie to say that I was unaffected. I had chased after her for so many years. But I still said, let's get a divorce. Otherwise, I'll sue you. Chloe looked at me with red eyes. I didn't bring my documents. Then another time. I left first, just like how she had always left me without hesitation. 2 days later, Chloe finally signed the divorce papers. I thought I would be sad, since it had been so long. But surprisingly, I felt lighter, as if all the weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I was going to live for myself now. I had wasted my youth on Chloe, and I would spend my future only on myself. To thank Sally for helping me with Ethan's case, I asked her to have dinner with me. I thought she was too busy, but she agreed. She was a workaholic, and after she started working, I had rarely seen her. But when we met, we would always have something to talk about. During dinner, she would put food on my plate. After dinner, Sally said that she wanted to go home, so I offered to drive her. I agreed. Just as I was about to drive away, someone called my name, Alex. I turned around and saw Chloe. It was ridiculous. When I used to chase after her, she pushed me away. Now that we had separated, she was haunting me. She walked towards me, looking haggard. Alex, give me another chance, okay? I'll chase after you this time. I promise I won't go near Ethan. Please forgive me. She lowered her head, afraid to look at me. She no longer had the confidence she used to have. Her confidence had come from my constant tolerance, believing that I would never leave her. Sally seemed afraid that I would be soft. She gently pulled my sleeve. I placed my hand on top of hers, telling her that I was okay. Then, I looked at Chloe. Chloe, can you please stop disgusting me? I have to say, you and Ethan are a great match. You both know how to weigh the pros and cons. Why are you chasing after me like this now? Is it love? Or do you just not want to lose your lapdog? So you should wait for him to get out of jail and marry you. Please don't come back and disgust me. We are completely over. There is nothing left. Chloe looked up at me. After seeing that I was holding Sally's hand, her heart was dead. She stammered, wanting to say something but not knowing what. Her eyes were filled with despair and helplessness, as if she had lost all hope and courage. I didn't care anymore. I pulled Sally into the car. As the car turned, I saw Chloe in the rearview mirror. She was still on the ground. I didn't feel anything and pressed on the gas pedal. I knew that my new life was finally beginning. The end.